This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview. To the Research Talks podcast here on Stockbox with Alan Green. And Alan, we'll be meeting next week, won't we, again in person at the Resourcing Tomorrow, or Minds and Money Resourcing Tomorrow. I think it's the main name is Resourcing Tomorrow, but everyone will know it as Minds and Money. I'm quite looking forward to getting down there. We're there for 3 days, conducting interviews live wherever we can, talking to all the different mining companies that are down there, finding out what some of the hot commodities and topics are going forward. But how are you? Are you looking forward to going down?
Yeah, it's always a good show, Mark, and good to be back. But certainly every year, Minds and Money is a highlight, and I think the way the shows are organised, and also I think we say this pretty well every week and have done for the past 18 months. But the sector has really taken an absolute battering, and I think a lot of investors are just wanting to position themselves for the hope for upturn when it comes, because what goes down must go up, and also what goes up must go down. But we've had this long war of attrition within the junior resources sector, and prices and valuations have not reflected the work really that's taken place with many of these projects, and indeed the assets that a lot of these companies own. So, and I think investors are fully aware of that. So the canny investors are getting down there, and they'll be walking around and talking to the various CEOs and board members, and getting a real picture of the opportunities that are out there, and to try to best position themselves for the upturn in companies that have assets that in key commodities that are going to power the energy or the clean energy revolution.
Yes, well, I think it'll be very interesting to see what the vibe is on the ground where the hot commodities are. I'm expecting certainly sort of rare earths, lithium, anything like copper, for example. But also, I'm curious to see what the uranium vibe is as well. So I'm sure we'll get a good impression of all of that. So yeah, make sure to stay tuned on Stockbox for all the juicy media from the site. But today, let's talk about a couple of companies. And so we're going to cover Cobra Resources, that's a rare earth project, and then BTC or Vinanz, which is completely different. It's obviously the Bitcoin mining with David Lenegas heading up that company. So is it BTC first you wanted to cover, Alan?
I'll cover Cobra first, if that's okay, Mark. It's just really continuing our theme, and of course the quality projects that are out there, the projects that are evolving and developing. Of course, it's always, when you look at a company with a series of assets that they're developing and proving up, there's a long process. Of course, you undergo you undertake the initial sampling work, and then of course chips and assay results, and then you go back and start to map out drill targets. Then you start drilling, and of course maybe the drilling takes you in a different direction, all the way through to proving up the resource. And in between time, you've then got pre-feasibility studies. Okay, so we know we've got XYZ down there. You then have to perhaps assess where the geological anomalies lie. How easy is it to get the stuff out of the ground? What's the cost of mining it? What sort of equipment you're going to need? All the way through to finally getting the ore or the product out of the ground, into the back of the truck or the rail truck, and of course off the market. And all of those form part of these studies. So it takes an awful long time and an awful lot of money to do that. But of course, at the junior end of the market, these companies develop these resources to the point where some of the mining majors will then come and say, okay, yeah, we'd like to help you with that. And of course, probably the best example of that is Greatland Gold, of course, with the Havieron deposit, partnered there with Newmont, still own 35% of it. And of course, there's a major gold mine being built there now. So Cobra Resources are in is certainly in a very strong position in southern Australia. The company's focus in southern Australia is an area called the Gawler Craton, and this is the oldest and largest geological province in southern Australia. It's a hotspot for mining deposits. That's IOCG, iron oxide, copper, gold deposits, and these are being mined by the big mining giants like BHP Billiton, Oz Minerals, and others. And there are huge mines there: the Carrapateena mine, the Oak Dam mine, the Olympic Dam mine, Challenger, Prominent Hill. The list goes on. It's a very busy area. So as a result of that, of course, the infrastructure, the connectivity, the resources, they're all in place to enable companies to get in there. And Cobra really have got themselves a prime asset in an area to just at the southern end of the Gawler Craton, called an area called Wadena. And Wadena has tenements there that have evolved a three-pronged strategy, as the company calls it. They're en route to proving up a 1 million ounce gold deposit near and they've developed near resource targets, and the year's activities have been a series of developments that have led up to establishing, of course, a series of prospects, both at the Cobra prospect, the White Tank prospect, Baggy Green and Clark prospects, which are combining to offer a substantial potential JORC mineral resource estimate of 279,000 ounces, and that's a JORC resource estimate. Then, of course, the secondary development is rare earths, and this is, I think, a really exciting focus for the company at the moment. It's well established globally, of course, that most of the rare earth deposits are based in China. So there is very much a race on, both in the US and in Australia and across the world, to establish and identify rare earth deposits. And of course, we have several major ones in Australia. You've got the Yangibana rare earth project, of course, across in the Gascoyne region in Western Australia. You've also got other territory, the Core Finis lithium projects, and other rare earth deposits dotted around. But this is a really exciting find, and it's named the Bolan prospect. And indeed, there are when the company initially announced drill resource or air core drilling results in June, total rare earth grades up to 3,568 parts per million. And CEO Rupert Vogel said at that point it was a potential tier 1 rare earth prospect. Then, of course, the drilling develops. So, of course, as the drilling work goes on, it's established another intersection was identified, 48-meter intersection of over 2,000 parts per million. And again, in September, the company announced resource upgrades, transformational exploration success, 41.6 million tons total rare earth oxides, and of course the JORC resource for the gold, 279,000 tons of gold is long established, and that's at the average grade of 1.5 grams per ton. And then a significant step forward on the rare earth front. In September, again, the Australian Nuclear Science and Technology Organisation, ANSTO, confirmed that the Bolan prospect was a very cost-efficient prospect with what it referred to as easily recoverable ionic absorption rare earth clays. And they can recover these clays using what's referred to as a lixiviant or a liquid process comparable to orange juice in acidity, which easily extracts the rare earth elements from these clays. This is a transformational step really in both thinking of working on rare earth prospects, and also, of course, it's an exceptional step forward in terms of the thinking on a much broader scale. And I'll come to that shortly, because it's led to a new prospect being identified that can utilize this particular system. Also in September, a memorandum of understanding was announced with Water Cycle Technologies to collaborate on rare earth extraction. This is basically extracting critical minerals with the lowest possible environmental impact, and of course, it's again a big step forward. Now, of course, Mark, we were talking about shows at the start. I went to one We Are Mining this week, and I spoke to Director Dan Mailing on the stand about the find. And whilst there was a new announcement, which I'll come to shortly, the team are just absolutely stoked by the opportunity at Wadena. And of course, just prior to the show, the company announced that it raised just under £1 million, 991,000 at a penny, and that was at a premium to the share price the previous day. So the shares are now trading just out of penny, having dipped down as low as 0.8p, and then obviously with news of the raise, that the share price has come back up again. But what that allows the company to do, it allows it to pay for the remaining 25% of Wadena. So that's now, the Wadena prospect is now 100% owned by Cobra, and indeed they can also, with that money, advance the Boland rare earth resources discovery. So the most recent development from Cobra is that, referring back to the rare earth the rare earth element extraction technology from ionic absorption rare earth clays, the company have identified a further opportunity in Deloraine in Tasmania, where they have just been granted a new rare earth exploration tenement, which is adjacent to a company called, or tenements owned by a company called ABX, where they've identified a rare earth resource near to ABX's rare earth Rubble Mounds rare earth project, which has a resource of 52 million tons at 817 parts per million TREO, total rare earth oxides. Excellent ionic metallurgy, and of course using this lixiviant to extract the rare earths from the clays. Cobra believes it can apply that same technology to there, and of course ramp up the company's potential production for rare earths into the future across two projects. So hugely exciting step forward for the group, and of course behind it all, they still have this huge gold asset there. Added to that, I mentioned the three-pronged strategy in play. They have multiple targets at Wadena, which of course are iron oxides, copper gold prospects across the region too. But of course, when you've got that, there must be like kids in the sweet shop at the moment. There's so much to go at. So of course the focus is currently on rare earths and developing gold. But I think we're going to hear an awful lot of news from Rupert, Dan, and the team in the coming months. And indeed, trading at the price it's at now, which of course is a penny, which is where the money was raised. I think it looks an excellent opportunity, and one of those companies that could really benefit from a turnaround in the fortunes of the junior resource sector.
Excellent. Well, yes, indeed. Thank you, Alan. It's I know Cobra's been around for a while, but like you say, pivoting to the rare earths here with they have to prove up the concept, but that's the next stage, isn't it? And it's going to be quite interesting to see how indeed that goes with ISR in situ recovery there. They're at Mines and Money next week, do you know?
I believe they are. Yes.
Excellent.
Yes. Yeah. I'm sure. I don't believe they are. I'm sure they are. I think everyone's going to be there. But Dan was Dan had stars in his eyes when he was talking about Wadena, and
okay.
And I mean, we're talking about the share price performance of these companies. I mean, Cobra's share price probably has held up better than others in the sector, but of course it's just drifted gradually lower. It's a year high of 2p down to 0.7p lows, and that was back at the start of the month. And of course they've gone and raised the money at a premium to that, at a penny. It's now come back to that, so there's no premium really for the latest news whatsoever. And the fact that the company are now sort of funded to, they can now acquire the remainder of Wadena and of course progress their rare earth exploration further.
Good. Well, I look forward to speaking to them in person next week. Thank you for that, Alan. So let's talk now about Bitcoin.
Bitcoin, indeed. So, yes. Well, Bitcoin has had
been doing well recently, though, hasn't it? The price, to be fair.
Oh, it has.
Yeah,
it has. It's up and down like a horse draws, but but of course that's the
nature of the game.
Nature of the game. And I was talking to somebody yesterday about this, and it's. I think the term is not for widows and orphans. It's it's a trader's dream. So if you're a trader, you're used to dipping in and out, then I think Bitcoin is very much the tool for that. But at the end of it, there's a lot of nascent value in Bitcoin. It's not going away. It's crypto is here to stay. It's a key part of where we are going forward. And of course, we've seen the first iteration of companies, taking full advantage of what Bitcoin has to offer. I think Argo blockchain was one of the best exponents in that regard. It went from a tiny company up to a company that was valued at $1.5 billion and then came all the way back down again. But I sense that Argo will be getting a second win too. And of course, with Argo, there's a CEO that took his salary in Bitcoin, which I think it's a great marketing move. So now we have Vinanz, Epicode BTC. I mean, what a fantastic Epicode that is. Listed on the Aquis exchange, of course. Market capitalization currently just under 10 million. So it's had a great few weeks, but with good reason. And again, Vinanz is very much looking at a model similar to Argo blockchain, but instead of actually laying out and buying the equipment and the BTC mining machines, it's basically investing into Bitcoin mining companies through third-party crypto miners. So the focus of the company, of course, this is headed by David Lennegas, and David has a longer and distinguished career in small caps, and certainly he's been involved in other elements of mining too. Most notably, of course, he was one of the early discoverers of the Sonora lithium project in Mexico, and that's where Cadence Minerals, of course, still has a stake with its Mexilith and Megalith concessions. Still a lot going on there, and of course Jonathan Edelman as well. So he and David have set up Vinanz. So the company's was set up. His initial focus was on scaling up Bitcoin mining, but it's also going to be looking at other cryptocurrencies and operations in the DeFi sector. That's of course decentralized finance and the big data space. And its aim is to provide a UK listed platform to offer entry into crypto and the crypto technology business. So it's, I mean, this year, really since June, it's all taken off for the company. But the key announcements or the key events have really taken place in November, where, if you look at the chart for the year, you can see the stock was rumbling along at 2.7 to 3p, and then all of a sudden it's jumped up to 8.25p, where it currently trades. But with good reason. So in June, it announced 100 new Bitcoin miners were operating in Labrador, Canada, and this is on a fixed price agreement with continued processing power of 10.4 petahash. And of course, petahash is an expression of processing power from terahash. It's just a multiple of that. But significantly, a lot of the Bitcoin mining operations go to jurisdictions where they can have access to cheap power. And of course, in Labrador, they've got green hydro energy power, and that's significant, of course, in terms of running costs. September was a significant step forward. The company announced it was also trading on the US OTC QB venture market, and I think it's very important. You know, if you've got operations in North America, you need to have a dual listing there to get exposure to those investors too. So, update in September at the end of September from David and the team. Nebraska and Labrador operations are running at a combined rate of 12 petahash per second, and at that point, the Vinanz Bitcoin wallet was holding 7.8 Bitcoin. So the great thing is with this, of course, you can look at the Bitcoin value, calculate that out, and then you've got an idea of the actual valuation of all the market capitalization of the company. And if it's trading at a discount to the amount of Bitcoins it has on the wallet, then that's an absolute slam dunk. The other important factor with Vinanz is it has absolutely no debt whatsoever. So it's scaling into these operations and building these operations from the cash that it generates. So I think it's an interesting tipping point also for Bitcoin itself. It's worth noting that the investment giant BlackRock, of course, which has hundreds, if not thousands, of investment funds all over the world, it filed for a US spot traded Bitcoin ETF during the summer months. So that, of course, is quite key, and I think it just shows that Bitcoin's here to stay, and it's going to be an important part of our future, and also will create an investment opportunity going forward. Then, as I said just now, of course, the key events for Vinanz took place in November. Start of the month, it raised 350,000 at 3p, and this was again at a premium to 2.8p trading, the 2.8p trading price at the time. And this is key. I think it's a reflection now that there is investors and institutions are seeing great value in the markets. We spoke about Cobra just now. Their raise of just under £1 million took place at an 11% premium. At 1p, the share price was trading at 0.9p, or just under 0.9p at the time. Ditto with Vinanz, trading at 2.87p, 875 pence, and it raised 350,000 at 3p. And it used that money to acquire 250 Bitcoin miners, and at a stroke, it tripled its North American mining fleet. So its processing rate is now 38 petahash. And what that will lead to is a new Bitcoin popping into the Vinanz wallet every 10 days. So if you look at that scalability, anything else the company adds to that will enhance that scalability and speed things up. So if we go from 10 Bitcoin every 10 days to every 5 days, you get the idea of where the company's going. So also in November, a further 171 miners were added to the operation. A deal was signed with Luxor, which is Vinanz's preferred North USA supplier, to buy 171 miners. The transfer date is November 25th, or this weekend. In fact, it's today, isn't it? Goodness me, it's the 25th today. So that adds a further 17 petahash of processing power, and this will also soon be joined by a further 80 miners, which will push that processing power up again, more petahash. At the time of the announcement, we're now up to just over 9 Bitcoins in the wallet, and Vinanz said it is aiming to have 371 miners spinning by the year end, which will really add to the Bitcoin acquisition rate in the wallet. Indeed, David said at the time they were extremely lucky to have these mines already in situ in the data center, and they're building as quickly as possible before the next halving of Bitcoin in April. So of course that's going to be a significant event in itself. Then again, a few days ago, another deal signed with Luxor to further supercharge the performance of the Bitcoin miners. Why is this key? Well, it's key because they can supercharge by increasing efficiencies and operating margins, and also reducing the power draw. So in a sense, it's an intelligent system that utilizes electricity at the cheapest when it's at its cheapest time, and improves efficiencies, and basically adds to the efficiencies, and it will be a key factor in the economies of scale going forward. So Vinanz has pushed on, from that 3p raise point, it jumped straight to 6.75p, then up to 7p, 7.5p, now trading at 8.25p. And of course, there's been a lot of trading activity on the Aquis exchange, which is great to see. I had a meeting with the Aquis team last week, and they've got great plans going forward. There's an event also at Aquis on the Tuesday where a lot of these companies are going to be showcased. And I think, Aquis is very much, going to be the next AIM market for junior companies, technology companies like Vinanz, or junior mining companies going forward. But certainly for Vinanz, I think it's really blazed a trail here. But I think if you're looking for an opportunity to scale into a company offering exposure to the crypto business, to Bitcoin, and also to the crypto technology and decentralized finance business, I think Vinanz is a very good opportunity in that regard, because it's scaling up very quickly already. We've seen what's happened already in the first wave of growth in Bitcoin, and the companies engaged with mining Bitcoin and utilizing Bitcoin. We've seen what happened to the likes of Argo blockchain previously. Vinanz is still only worth just over £9 million. So remembering Argo went to 1.5 billion, that's a big jump from here. But it's not inconceivable, if the company carries on acquiring Bitcoin and it increases that Bitcoin acquisition rate into the wallet, it increases production, it makes its production more efficient through the deal it signed with Luxor to improve efficiencies and boost operating margins, of course, reduce power draw. It's entirely possible that Vinanz could be Argo blockchain number 2. Early days, but watch this space.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Alan. I know Lenegas is very keen to get as much as you can in place before that Bitcoin halving, and of course it will become doubly hard to mine. So yes, and he did explain, that, as you said, that a supercharging, it's basically overclocking, isn't it? As you overclock a processor or a GPU, it does use more energy, and it will wear the parts down. But he said this with this upgrade in the software with Luxor, that he's got flexibility then. So if they want to just get as much as they can, they go for it. Or if it turns out that they need to wind them down for whatever reason, or it gives them flexibility effectively, so they can basically be as profitable as they can be. So yeah, I mean, seems like it's all steam ahead, doesn't it, with them, just to get as many miners in place as possible ahead of that halving, and given a following winds in that Bitcoin price, then yeah. I mean, he break even at what, 15,000, I think, roughly. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I mean, it's the company has no debt. That's one of the things that said, become very apparent, and that's really important, because if you've got a company that's able to generate cash in this manner, that has no debt, that's key going forward. But one other factor, of course, that has been in the back of my mind is, of course, we talked recently about many companies engaged with AI and the ramifications for that. I imagine what Luxor produces is something that's involving AI to maximize efficiency. So, maybe this is a step down that road. What else could AI bring to maximize and improve the Bitcoin production process? Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Alan, for your time today, and we're looking forward to seeing you next week. We'll have a good catch up, and also hopefully we're doing some interviews for Stockbox for us as well. So looking forward to that, and thank you for your time today.
Looking forward to it, Mark. See you next week.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like, or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter, and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.